Because of what they're going up against, this could be Kevin Jennings and the offense's best game of the year so far.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Appreciate you taking some time out of your day with me, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Also on the show today, what would an SMU win have to be for all of you to look to be comfortable about where this team is going forward? I'll give you my answer. Plus, they cannot let Ricky Collins, the backup quarterback who has now been thrust in as the starter, become somebody who gets rolling against them. So we're going to talk about that to close up the show. Our show today, by the way, is brought to you by Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by Mazda. Move and be moved. And let's go ahead and get right to it. I'm Grayson Singleton. Thanks for listening. This week could be Kevin Jennings' best game of the season. And part of this is what Syracuse has put on tape combined with what SMU has put on tape. And the other part of it is a trickle-down effect from what could happen in the game come this weekend. Now, let's start with the first thing. What has SMU put on tape versus what Syracuse has put on tape? And we talked about Syracuse's inept ability in terms of stopping the run. They also are not very good against the pass. This Syracuse defense all around is just bad. And what level do I have to stand on to say somebody else is bad at pass defense, given that SMU is dead last in the ACC against the pass? Fair question. But Syracuse against the pass this year is third to last. Only Stanford and SMU are worse against the pass than Syracuse. By the way, I would argue that to this point, SMU has faced better quarterbacks and better passing attacks than Syracuse. Obviously, Syracuse played Tennessee, so that gets the number one. But in terms of an overall resume, I think SMU might have a better one in terms of what quarterbacks you've played against. But that's neither here nor there. Syracuse surrenders 291 yards through the air per game. They have also allowed 11 touchdown passes and have only intercepted quarterbacks 3 times. So they don't take the ball away, and you can have some reasonable success throwing the ball into the end zone against them. They also don't put a heck of a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Only 7 sacks this year, which in totality isn't that terrible of a stat, but that also is second to last in the ACC. Only North Carolina has sacked the quarterback fewer times than Syracuse has. So they don't get a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they don't stop you from scoring the ball through the air. SMU, on the other hand, has playmakers galore. Jordan Hudson is back. Jalen Cooper has emerged. Romello Brinson has had a good start to the year when he's not getting flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Matthew Hibner is a nice piece. RJ Maryland is getting healthier and healthier as we go on. And we know Kevin Jennings can distribute the ball to his playmakers, including the guys out of the backfield. So there is reason to believe that the way that this matches up, Kevin Jennings can have a field day. Now, the pass pro has to be better, I think, because you don't want this to be the game where the Orange get rolling in terms of getting to the quarterback. But if the pass pro holds up, I think Kevin Jennings can cut up this defense. I think he could pick this secondary apart. Because one thing that will exacerbate bad pass coverage is no pressure on the quarterback. So if there's no pressure on the quarterback and Jennings can just sit back and distribute the ball to whomever he wants to do so, play in and play out, Hudson, Cooper, Brinson, Hibner, Maryland, whomever, then I think this sets up to be a good game, a good efficient game for Kevin Jennings, given that his accuracy is on point in this game. But there also is a trickle-down effect that I think can go in SMU's direction here. And that is the fact that I think, depending on how SMU plays this, one of two things can happen. Either Syracuse gets demoralized early, or they get demoralized later. Now, how does each one be accomplished? Well, demoralized early is because Syracuse can be vulnerable to giving up the big play, whether it's in the run game or the pass game. And when you keep giving up chunk plays and you're having to, turn around and, jog back to the new line of scrimmage while all the momentum is on the offense and your stadium is getting quieter and quieter, that's a demoralizing effect. And that can happen early in the game, given SMU's propensity for trying to generate the big play early in ball games. The second way this could happen is that their defense just ends up on the field too long, because Syracuse can't stop the run worth anything. We talked about this with Jackson Holzer, which, by the way, hope you guys enjoyed that crossover episode with Jackson Holzer of Locked On SMU, or Locked On Syracuse. I'm Locked On SMU. But we talked about this with Jackson yesterday. Nate Shepard looked like the second coming of Eric Dickerson. And they have allowed every team, that includes Clemson and that includes Tennessee. Clemson, Tennessee, and Duke. The three Power 4 teams that Syracuse has faced this year, they have looked like the greatest rushing attack on planet Earth. All three of them. Clemson's running back ran for 6 yards a carry. Tennessee did something similar. Nate Shepard last week looked like he was the greatest running back ever when Duke just beat the crap out of Syracuse. So if you run the ball and you're chewing up clock and you're keeping the defense on the field and you're doing it drive in and drive out, eventually that defense is just going to wilt. And at that point, that's when you got them. But I think everything that could possibly happen if SMU plays its game the way it should is that Kevin Jennings has an efficient, effective game. That's why I think this game could be his best game yet. And it's not going to be against the greatest defense in the world. But confidence and momentum and carryover do matter. And if you could get that confidence and you've seen yourself do it against a Power 4 opponent, by the way, with a good coach in Fran Brown, if you can see yourself do it and then do it again, all of a sudden, that game at Clemson, you're walking in with a little bit more swag. That game against Miami at home, you're walking into that with a little more swag, even more than you otherwise would, given that it's at Ford Stadium. So things during a season build upon each other. That's why that's important. But their inability to cover, that being Syracuse, their inability to rush the passer and make him uncomfortable. I mean, Darian Mensah had a solid game against Syracuse, and he hadn't been all that great this year. He's been good. He hadn't been fantastic this year. So I think this is going to be a chance for the offense to put up a lot of points. And I think Kevin Jennings, if he's kept clean and the offense can run the ball and then go to your quick game and guys make plays, stay ahead of the chains, don't knock yourself back with dumb penalties or technically unsound penalties that lead to holds and whatnot. If they stay on script, I think Kevin Jennings can have a pretty good game, because a lot of what SMU does well exploits what Syracuse does very poorly. So I think this is a good matchup game for SMU. And we still didn't even talk about the fact that they don't have a backup quarterback. We'll get to that later on in the show. But coming up next, how much does SMU have to win by for you to feel comfortable with this win and not be saying, well, we only beat them because they had their backup quarterback in there? We'll talk about that on the other side. Keep it here. Locked On SMU on a Thursday. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. One of my favorite things about FanDuel, and really my favorite thing, is that no matter how you want to bet on any given day, you can do it. Player props, you know I love those. Same game parlays, and even live bets if you want to jump in as the game is going on. Whether you're a casual fan or you just love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. We're also brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. So what are some places that you guys down in Dallas can frequent to support these? How about Einstein Brothers Bagels in the DFW airport? Anytime I have to fly in or out of there, I'm always frequenting that spot. And there's so many others on Square. So Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Back here on Locked On SMU, by the way, thank y'all so much for the interaction on some of the past videos concerning Rhett Lashley. It's been awesome to see the interaction there. I've tried to get in there and respond to some comments that I could respond to without trying to set anything on fire. And I know my background's a little bit different today. I've had some issues in my house with my internet, so we'll be back to the normal setup tomorrow. But by the way, subscribe to the channel. Give us a follow on social media. Podcast listeners appreciate you as well. Okay, how much would SMU have to win by for you to feel comfortable? And I will give you my answer. And my answer is, how about they just cover? Let's talk about, can they cover this game? Right now, according to the ESPN FPI, SMU has an 83.8% chance to win this game. The spread on ESPN Bet, it's the same on FanDuel as well, by the way. 16.5 point favorite. That's 16.5 is what it opened at. It is currently at 17.5. SMU should cover this game. And I know my prediction was somewhere in the realm of 33-16, which the line was 16.5 yesterday. That would be a cover. It would not be a cover if you took it today. No, it would not. It would not be a cover. It would barely miss it. But I think this is a game that SMU should cover. Number one, you're going up against a backup quarterback. And the offense looked pretty bad last week. Now, I know they've got good players, Justin Ross Simmons, Jonte Cook on the outside, but they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't hold on to the ball. They fumbled it 2 or 3 times. And Ricky Collins just wasn't effective nor efficient in the pass game. So this should be a game where your defensive line gets to tee off. They should become pretty predictable as to what they do, which means that's going to be good for your front seven, which is a nice game to work in Zakai Barker and Alex Kilgore back. So they shouldn't be able to get a whole lot of traction offensively. And then defensively, Syracuse has been nothing short of a sieve. Can't stop the run, can't stop the pass. I mean, they've been bad. They have been bad in all facets of playing defense. Let me find out, as a matter of fact, what Syracuse ranks in the ACC in terms of yards allowed. Oh, look at this. They are dead last. Dead last in total yards allowed, 464. Now, who is second to last, you might ask? That's the Mustangs of SMU, by the way. But there are large discrepancies in this. And however way SMU wants to play this game, they should be able to do so successfully. If they want to run the ball 40 times, you're doing so against a team who is dead last in the ACC against the run, allowing 174 yards on the ground per game. So you should be able to do that to your heart's content. If you want to throw it, okay, we can go ahead and throw it too. We've got playmakers. Their defensive playmakers haven't really shown up in big-time games. They haven't looked good against a Power 4 team defensively. So you've got that working for you. Those two things in and of themselves, the fact that you have an offense that hasn't really looked great with the backup quarterback in, and the fact that their defense has not looked good in any game, period, this year, Steve Angeli being the quarterback or not, you should be able to cover 17.5. I just think you should. And now, if they end up winning 34-17 and Syracuse gets a backdoor cover, then okay, we're talking about something different. Like, I would still feel comfortable with that. You won the game more than convincingly at that point in time. So I would be chilling with that. But in no way In no way, if SMU is going to compete to be at the top of the ACC, there should be no way on planet Earth that this game is competitive middle of the third quarter on. There just should not be. And I think the only way this game is competitive is if Ricky Collins all of a sudden, we find out he's really good. He just needed 1 week to acclimate himself into a starting role. Or the fact if SMU's discipline issues come back and rear their ugly head again. Like, SMU, if they don't beat themselves, ill-timed penalties, fumbles, missed assignments, being the team from last year that was the most penalized team in the country, if they do not beat themselves, SMU should be able to win this game rather easily. Now, I use easily cautiously because it is a Power 4 game against a good opponent who, yes, even though their quarterback blew his Achilles out, still has good players. But the fact that you got a quarterback who didn't inspire any sort of confidence the first time he started a game says to me we should be able to get this done. You have an advantage on both trenches. You have an advantage in the skill positions, especially SMU's wide receivers to Syracuse DBs. But now I don't know how SMU's DBs are going to hold up against Syracuse wide receivers, but that might be neutralized because, again, Steve Angeli isn't the quarterback right now. So Ricky Collins has to give the guys a chance to go make plays, and we don't know if he's capable of that. So however way you slice it, in no way should this game come down to the wire. In no way should we be sweating this. If that is the case, we got problems. Like, we have problems. And I said this yesterday, I said it on Tuesday, and I'll say it again. If SMU's pass defense can't get right and show some positivity this week, the operation might be cooked. Because there's only so much you can keep rearranging this. And there's only so much you can continue to do before we just say, look, they're bad. At that point, we just have to throw our hands up and say, yep, they're bad. If you can't contain a quarterback starting his second game, and in his first game, he looked terrible. So this game, to me, should be able to win it convincingly, should be able to cover the 17.5. You can run the ball to your heart's content. You can throw the ball. You should be able to get it to the playmakers, and they have a big day. And then defensively, you should be able to impose your will. And then on the back end, you should be able to show signs of improvement and signs of a pulse in terms of being able to stop people throwing the ball through the air. That's the way I'm going to look at this for this game. Anything less than that, if this is a 13-point game, I don't know. Maybe it's a lower possession game and it ends up that way with a late touchdown or a late score. We'll have to watch the game and decide for ourselves based on the game, not just the raw score. But to me, this is a game that SMU should cover. Unless it keeps going up to 20.5, which at that point, that might be a little bit far-fetched. But I don't think the line's going to do that. Where it is right now, where it opened, SMU should be a pretty solid cover. Coming up next, one more segment to go. Please don't let this be the game that Ricky Collins comes out. And we'll talk about that to close up the show. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, they sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every single model, with all-wheel drive coming standard in every crossover SUV. You can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every single detail. Because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We're also brought to you today by Game Time. College football is back and it's ongoing, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, and the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. And let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout, it just sucks. So that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to us, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices and with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. It's why Game Time is my favorite. I pull up the Game Time app, and in just a couple of taps, I can see amazing deals. I'm talking about tickets for your college football games as low as $25. And you can toggle on the feature that allows you to see what your ticket price is going to be with the fees included. It's awesome. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, let's close this up talking about something that absolutely cannot happen on Saturday, and that is Ricky Collins getting going. Like, Ricky Collins needs to look like a backup quarterback against SMU for us to feel confident that they're actually going to be a team that can improve defensively and contend with the likes of Miami and the likes of Clemson and whatnot for the top of the ACC. And if they get to the championship game, hang with a team like Florida State or Georgia Tech. Ricky Collins, to this point in the season, has thrown the ball 51 times. He's completed 31 of them for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. And I think he also has a fumble lost as well. In the game against Duke, Syracuse scored a field goal in the first quarter and did not score again. Syracuse in that game was outgained 503 to 314. And Collins was 24 of 37. Had an interception as well. Ain't very good. He ain't very good. 6.2 yards per attempt, a QBR of 19.8. Pretty bad. Syracuse running 3.1 yards per carry. Bad. And when you can't run the ball, and I don't expect them to be able to run the ball against SMU's front 6 or front 7, whatever you want to call it now. I don't expect them to be able to run the ball against SMU. When you can't run the ball to help out a young, inexperienced quarterback who just got thrust into a starting role 2 weeks ago, guys, that's a recipe for disaster. Every football fan knows that. It is a recipe for disaster. So, even though the receivers are there, the Jonte Cooks of the world, Emmanuel Ross has come on lately. He's coming off a game where he had 5 catches for 57. Justice Ross Simmons, good player. They have 3 good receivers. The quarterback ain't good. But we've seen this before. We've seen in college football, backup quarterbacks come into a game, you don't expect too much from them, and then boom, they actually play pretty decently. Missouri did this to Oklahoma last year where Drew Pine came off the bench. Brady Cook was hurt. And Drew Pine, he didn't play fantastic, but he played more than good enough for Missouri to beat Oklahoma at home. Now, Ricky Collins is going to have to do this on the road, but we've seen dudes come in. Cardale Jones won a national championship with Ohio State. He was the 3rd-string quarterback at the start of the year. You can't let them get confidence. You cannot let them get confidence and settle into the game and start to realize in their mind, oh yeah, I belong here. I can do this. And then all of a sudden, it only takes that one spark, and all of a sudden there's a fire, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're in a closer game than you should have been in. Guys, if SMU's defense is going to show signs of improvement and show some sort of semblance to last year's unit, they have to smother this dude. They have to smother Ricky Collins. He cannot get any air. He cannot get any footing. He cannot have a point in the game where he's comfortable. It just cannot happen. I asked in the previous segment, what would it look like for an SMU win to make you comfortable and make you seem like, okay, there's still hope for this year? And one of the things that is going to factor into that is, can they make a backup quarterback who isn't very good look like a backup quarterback who isn't very good? Instead of the other way around that some teams find themselves falling into, where they're going up against a backup quarterback and it looks like, wait, they might have something in this dude. No, he cannot look competent. Don't let him look competent. I know he'll complete some balls. He'll get the ball quickly out to a receiver. He'll break a couple of tackles and whatnot. But if Ricky Collins is dropping back in the pocket and delivering balls into windows in the intermediate and launching deep balls, it's not going to be a pretty feeling. It's just not, because we know that this ain't a dude that's good. So that's one of the huge things that if it goes like the way it should, and for me to feel comfortable, I got to see the SMU defense get after this offense. Now, does that mean you're going to hold them to 3 points for the entirety of the game? No. That doesn't always translate one game to the other, and that's why the transitive property in sports is a pretty stupid thing to try to reason with. It's funny when you're tongue-in-cheek, but if we're being serious, the transitive property in sports is not really a thing, because every game is its own thing. You have to see what it looks like. Hell, SMU could hold Syracuse to less than 314 yards of total offense. That's what they got against Duke. I mean, maybe they score 13 points, but they've only gained 230 yards. Maybe the offense fumbled the ball in field goal range and, Syracuse gets a field goal but gains no yards. It just depends on how the game is going to look, right? So I'm interested in watching this game to see, does this defense actually make Ricky Collins look like a backup quarterback? Can the pass rush continue its trajectory, getting after the passer? I'd like to see that. I'd actually like to see Collins running around from an SMU defensive line perspective. But you got to get after him. He cannot get rolling. And there are some times in football, both college and pro, when the backup quarterback can play good enough to where he gets rolling. Don't let it be you. Don't let it be you that allows that quarterback to get rolling and get some confidence going into their next game. Go ahead and smother this dude, man. And that would make me feel a lot better about this defense going forward through the rest of conference play. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU on a Thursday. And it is Thursday, which brings up, we got college football kickoff tonight as the collaboration between Locked On and Fire TV takes center stage. Drake Toll hosts, he's a Locked On of Big 12. Gary Patterson, Jesse Holley, and the Locked On local experts join as well. So make sure you catch college football kickoff every Thursday. That's tonight on Locked On College Kickoff on Fire TV. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Last show before we go into the game. We'll see you, everybody. Have a good one.